This is Mr. W speaking to all my fellow investigators out there. I invite you to leave behind what you think you know. Close your eyes, let the static of the world fade, and follow me into a story that brushes the edge of reality. Tonight, we turn our gaze upon a locale etched into the history of ufology, a quiet place in Mississippi where, on a fateful evening, two men claim to have stepped beyond the veil of the ordinary, into a realm that defied explanation. This is the story of the Pascagoula Abduction. The date was October 11th, 1973. The place, the Pascagoula River in Mississippi. Two men, Charles Hickson, then 42 years old, and Calvin Parker, just 18 or 19. They were shipyard workers, colleagues, simply hoping for a peaceful evening of fishing after a long day. They weren't having much luck. The river flowed, the night settled in, and perhaps they were considering calling it quits, when the ordinary dissolved into the extraordinary. A dazzling blue light pierced the darkness from behind them, illuminating the entire scene. Turning, they watched in awe and terror as an object, described as rugby ball-shaped, descended. It hovered just a few feet above the ground, a few yards from their location. Before they could react, before they could run, an opening appeared in the craft. Out of it glided three entities, described as bizarre-looking humanoids. Their appearance was unsettling, some accounts describing carrot-like faces and lobster claw hands. These beings took hold of the two terrified onlookers. What followed, according to Hickson and later Parker, was an experience aboard the craft. They were subjected to some form of examination. Both men reported feeling something akin to a scratch or a prick similar to an injection when the humanoids took hold of them. Minutes later, they were back on the riverbank. The strange craft departed. Taking off in their car, disoriented and terrified, they eventually found a public telephone and called the local sheriff. They made their way to the sheriff's department and recounted their incredible story of being abducted by aliens. After questioning the men, the police officers made a decision that would add a fascinating layer to the mystery. They left Parker and Hickson alone in the room, secretly recording their conversation. The police, expecting a hoax, anticipated the two men would reveal their deception. Instead, the recording captured them continuing to discuss the events, sounding genuinely terrified. This candid recording provided a glimpse into their state of mind immediately following the alleged incident. Within 24 hours, the story had found its way into the media, and press descended upon the unsuspecting Mississippi town. The tale went around the world. Charles Hickson, perhaps more resilient or simply needing to share his burden, readily told his story, even appearing on shows like Dick Cavett. Calvin Parker, however, was deeply disturbed by the events. For decades, he largely remained in the background, wanting simply to be left alone. It wasn't until 28 years later, in 2018, that Calvin Parker finally told his full story for the first time in his book, Pascagoula, The Closest Encounter, My Story. This book is considered one of the classic close encounters currently on record. Parker's account included the full transcript of his hypnotic regression session with researcher Bud Hopkins. His decision to speak out and the subsequent publicity had an unexpected effect. More and more first-hand eyewitnesses began to come forward. Some reported seeing unusual aerial phenomena in the days before or after the Parker-Hickson encounter. Others claimed to have observed something on the very same night, October 11th, 1973. Notably, two witnesses were reportedly on the opposite side of the Pascagoula River at the exact same time and recounted a sequence of events that could indicate they too had a similar encounter. These new testimonies are detailed in the more recent book, Beyond Reasonable Doubt, The Pascagoula Alien Abduction, co-authored by international UFO researcher Philip Mantle and Dr. Irina Scott. Beyond the witness accounts, a potential piece of physical evidence has long been discussed. Both men reported feeling a scratch or prick during their alleged examination. A document, dating from October 13th, 1973, just 2 days after the encounter, was uncovered in 2018. It describes a physical examination of the two men and notes that puncture wounds were located on Charles Hickson's arm and Calvin Parker's foot. The document also mentioned that photographs of these marks were taken. Sadly, these photographs were missing from the file. Then, in 2021, as the book Beyond Reasonable Doubt was being written, the authors received an email with photographs that were confirmed to be those missing images showing marks on Hickson's arm and Parker's foot. These photos were published for the first time in the book and are presented as potential proof of a physical contact that night. However, fellow investigators, no case as strange as this exists without its challenges and alternative interpretations. Skepticism has been a constant companion to the Pascagoula story. Aviation journalist and UFO skeptic Philip J. Klass found what he termed discrepancies in Hickson's story and noted that Hickson refused to take a polygraph exam conducted by an experienced examiner, leading Klass to conclude the case was a hoax. Skeptical investigator Joe Nickell also found Hickson's behavior questionable and suggested his claims may have been embellished over time. Nickell offered a psychological hypothesis, suggesting that Charles Hickson may have fantasized the alien encounter during a hypnagogic state, a sort of waking dream. As for Calvin Parker's corroboration, Nickell speculated this was likely due to suggestibility or potentially even a shared delusion known as folie à deux, pointing to Parker's initial statement to police that he had passed out at the beginning of the incident and only regained consciousness when it was over. Nichols' own investigations into this and the Travis Walton case led him to believe both were hoaxes. A significant tool employed by proponents of alien abduction tales to substantiate their claims is regressive hypnosis. Both Parker and Hickson underwent hypnosis sessions related to the event. While some practitioners like James A. Harder claimed it was impossible to lie under hypnosis and endorsed the Pascagoula accounts, others with extensive experience expressed caution. Dr. Simon, who worked on the famous Betty and Barney Hill case, sharply disagreed with the idea that hypnosis is a magical and royal road to the truth, believing the Hills abduction story was fantasy, although their experience of seeing a bright light was real and terrifying. Research by figures like Alvin H. Lawson in the 1970s demonstrated the potential pitfalls of using hypnosis to uncover truth in alleged abduction cases. Lawson conducted experiments where subjects were hypnotically led through imaginary abduction scenarios, and their recounted stories showed no substantive differences from accounts given by individuals who claimed actual abduction experiences. This led Lawson to warn that one should be cautious about hypnotic regression results in UFO investigations. Martin T. Orne, an internationally recognized authority on hypnosis, highlighted that there is no way to differentiate an actual memory from a confabulation, or fantasy, created under hypnosis without independent verification. Orne noted that a hypnotist's beliefs could inadvertently guide a subject's recall, potentially creating pseudo-memories that become incorporated into the subject's mind as if they were real events. He recommended strict safeguards for forensic hypnosis that were often not followed in UFO investigations, such as the hypnotist not knowing case details or other people being present. R. Leo Sprinkle, a prominent practitioner in UFO cases, acknowledged that while hypnotic techniques are helpful for abductees to explore memories, he could not determine the level of reality, accepting the experiences as real in the minds of the individuals themselves. As fellow investigators, we observe patterns across various unexplained phenomena. The Pascagoula case, like the Betty and Barney Hill abduction before it and the Travis Walton case after, shares common threads in the narrative structure and the investigative methods employed, particularly the reliance on hypnosis. Furthermore, some researchers point to similarities between the abduction narrative and accounts of sleep paralysis, where dreamlike states can involve intense visions and a sense of a menacing presence. The tendency for fantasy and suggestion to influence memory, especially under hypnosis, presents a recurring challenge when attempting to discern the true nature of these experiences. The shift from stories of demons or creatures in the night to accounts of alien abductions over time also suggests a potential psychological or cultural lens through which unexplained, terrifying experiences are interpreted. Calvin Parker passed away in August of 2023 at the age of 68, following Charles Hickson's death in 2011. Both men maintained the truth of their experience until their deaths. The Pascagoula incident remains one of the most famous and controversial alleged alien abductions on record, sparking wonder and discussion decades later, even commemorated by a historical marker. We are left with the enduring mystery of that night on the Pascagoula River. Was it a genuine encounter with something truly unknown, supported by eyewitness accounts, physical marks, and their immediate, recorded terror? Or can it be fully explained by psychological factors, suggestibility, and the fallibility of human memory, particularly when probed by potentially flawed methods like hypnosis? Fellow investigators, what truly happened on October 11th, 1973?